third-party financing addendum, again, it's promulgated by TREC, so it's one of those forms that you have to use. You can't make one up. You can't use something out of somebody's private library. You have to use this if you have financing. Very quickly, the type of financing and the duty to apply. This first paragraph is time is of the essence, basically, that the buyer, once they're under contract, immediately get with their lender and provide all the information that the lender is going to require, to include a copy of the contract and this third-party financing addendum, as well as approval for them to talk with you and you to talk with them. That's always important. All right, the general types of financing that we're going to see in our area are conventional, Texas Veterans Loan for land, FHA, VA, USDA, and although it's authorized now and they are available, I have not seen anybody do it, the reverse mortgage financing, but it is a type of financing that is available for your senior buyers. So first and foremost, we're going to spend more time on A here, conventional financing, because I'm going to go over pretty much what's going to be filled in the other options as well. So if you're going to choose conventional, all right, and you're always going to have a first mortgage, right? And in the principal amount of, all right, on the first page of the contract, you're going to have a certain amount of money down that's going to be paid cash, and the rest is the loan. This is what you put in. This is the financed amount, all right, excluding any PMIs, etc. Due in full in X number of years. Generally, it's 30 years or possibly 15, but some people may get loans for who knows, a 20-year loan. Or this may be one of the variable rate loans that the initial interest rate is only good for, say, 5 years. So you would be put in here in the 30-year loan with interest not to exceed, in our market now, 3.5%, 4%, something like that. All right, that's a reasonable amount. They're going to pay less than that per annum for the first, say, 5 years of the loan if it's a variable rate graduated mortgage. All right, it may change after that, so but it's still a 30-year loan. All right, and with the buyer's loan estimate for the loan not to exceed a certain percentage, we're going to put 1 or 2%. Those are your closing costs for the loan. All right, what we want to do is we don't want to put something unrealistic in there, like 1/8 of 1% or something, because it's not going to happen. A reasonable amount is 1 to 2% of the loan, and that just protects the buyer as well. We also don't want to put something in there like 5%. That would be price gouging from the lender's standpoint. Now the second one here, a second mortgage. If you're going to have a second mortgage, this is where sometimes buyers will qualify for one of these special loans where they're going to put no money down, but they're going to put their 20% down in a second mortgage. All right, this used to be real popular. It's not so much anymore. Now what you might get is a 90-10-10, where an 80-10-10. 80% is your primary mortgage, 10% down through the second mortgage, and 10% down in cash. But the same thing is how much is the second mortgage principal amount, excluding any financing, due in full in X number of years. Normally a second mortgage is due in like 10 years. And again, with interest not to exceed a certain amount, and normally second mortgage interest is 1 to 2 points higher because it's a smaller amount for a shorter period of time for the first X number of years of the loan. And so that's where we're at there. All right, B, Texas Veterans Loans. Now these are limited to land for the Texas Veterans Land Board to loan direct. They only loan direct for raw land, not for homes. All right. They have another loan guarantee program where they guarantee a lower loan rate, but it's always tied to either a VA or a conventional loan. It's another program. You guys have seen some of the ads out there. I strongly suggest that you go get take the CE. It's a couple of hours. It's very good. It gets you on the Texas Veterans Land Board list, and you will learn a lot about TVLB. All right, but that one there again, it's direct lender. All right, the buyer has to apply for it on the TVLB site, and they do lend direct up to $150,000 for land. So if your buyer is spending $300,000 for 300 acres or whatever, and they want to use their TBLB, they can use it for the first $150,000, and then they'll have to qualify for another loan on top of that. All right, subparagraph C, FHA financing. FHA is also very popular and common in our area. When it starts off with a section blank, FHA has got different section labels for their loans. In general, you're going to use a section 203B, as in baby. 203B is going to be your primary FHA loan for single-family residents and buyers. So if you put that in there, you're generally going to be safe. Again, the amount that you put in here is the amount that's financed. All right. Amortizable monthly for not less than, again, the length of the loan, generally 30 years, with an interest rate not to exceed a certain amount for the first 30 years of the loan, and origination charges not to exceed 1 or 2% of the loan. Again, talking with the lender to ensure that you have the right numbers and the right times in there is critical. So before you take your people out, you get them pre-approved. Same thing in here. Do a 5-minute phone call with the lender and say, hey, what are they approved for? Are they doing conventional, FHA, VA, whatever? And the lender might even give you some options. All right, but they'll generally tell you that it's going to be a 30-year loan, X interest rate, and if it's FHA, they'll confirm the amount financed. So talk with the lenders. They're going to be your heroes throughout this. Subparagraph D, VA guaranteed financing, very popular in our area with all of our veterans and active duty military. Same numbers, a guaranteed loan of not less than X. Generally, the VA, you don't put any money down. So on page 1 of the 1 to 4, it's going to have the block there in paragraph 3, checked amount financed. That's going to be the sales price of the home. So it's $283,000. That's what's going to go on page 1, and that's what's going to go in this line here. Again, amortizable for not less than, generally 30 years, interest rate not to exceed, like I said, nowadays 3.5%, 4% for the first 30 years of the loan, and with loan origination charges not to exceed, again, 1 or 2% of the loan. Very simple process with VA, great loan product for your buyers if they qualify. USDA, it's another great product, and it is zero down if they qualify, but it's only for what they call agricultural development areas. So within city limits of San Antonio, Live Oak, Universal City, Schertz, Cibolo, New Braunfels, you're not going to qualify for the loan. Generally, it's going to be outside of city limits or in a smaller town like Marion or Santa Clara. All right. If you go to usda.gov.gov, you can go in there and just type in USDA loan, and it'll take you to the loan origination page. You can type in the address. It'll tell you whether they qualify for it or not. But again, USDA is a little bit different. You're going to go through a USDA approved lender like Legacy Mutual or one of the others around here, and they're going to work that for you. But the USDA has to have a qualified address to work. Again, they're going to put in how much the loan is for, how many years it's going to be, the percentage for the loan, again, reiterating how many years the loan, and for the origination charges not to exceed 1 or 2% of the loan. Again, great option here for folks, but it's also limited on income as well as location. Reverse mortgage financing, I'm just going to leave that here. It is very unique. You need to talk with a lender, and there's not a whole lot of them that do this out there. I would tell you to contact Melinda Hipp, H-I-P-P. She is not only a lender, she's also a TREC approved instructor that teaches a class on reverse mortgage financing. It is phenomenal. And we've had her here in the office before, and I'll bring her back again once we start going live. But great program here. And it gives a lot of options to your older seniors. All right, big paragraph 2, approval of financing. This is very, very, very important, okay? Approval for the financing above will be deemed to have been obtained when the buyer approval and property approval are obtained. Okay, once again, time is of the essence for this paragraph, and strict compliance with the time for the performance is required. So both the buyer have options here, and requirements, as well as the lender getting the appraisal in. So we'll start with the buyer approval. The contract is subject to the buyer obtaining final buyer approval, and if the buyer can't obtain this, you may give written notice to the seller within X number of days of the effective date. All right, and if they don't terminate the contract under this provision with that number of days, the buyer is now obligated to purchase the property. That number of days there, again, talking with your lender, should be a reasonable amount. If your closing is 45 days and I'm the listing agent and you put 40 days in there, I'm going to say, no. That's a very weak offer. But if you put 20 days in there, that's reasonable. A 10-day option period and then 10 more days for the lender to finalize financing. That's a pretty good number. 15 to 20 days is probably pretty good. That'll protect your buyers adequately and also not be too intrusive to a listing agent or the seller. The other subparagraph here is you can check where the contract is not subject to buyer obtaining approval. That means that your lender has already given a completely qualified loan, approved and qualified loan for your buyers, and they are ready to go. They know what their budget is. As long as they stay within that, the lender is just going to need to get the appraisal, underwriting, and close. They should also be able to close in 2 or 3 weeks as well, if they are like that. Here's the other critical protection for your buyer, and that's property approval. If the buyer's lender determines that the property does not satisfy lender's underwriting requirements for the loan, here's what's important, including but not limited to appraisal, insurability, and lender required repairs. Once again, the appraisal must meet value, all right? And if not, there's other negotiations that can go on, but at the end of the day, if you can't negotiate with the seller, the buyer has the right to terminate the contract if it doesn't meet the appraisal and get their earnest money back. Also, if there's problems with insurability, say the seller had roof damage and collected a big check for a new roof and never had the roof done. Well, they're gonna check on that, and an insurance company is not going to insure the house until that roof is complete. If the seller doesn't want to do that, they can terminate the contract, get their earnest money back. All right. If the buyer does not terminate under the paragraph, property approval is deemed to have been obtained. So no news is good news on everybody's part here. Security, this is just saying that any financing is going to be secured with a vendor's and deed of trust lien. That protects the mortgage holder and lets the buyers know that although they own the home, they don't own the loan. So they'll have to pay that off first. FHA and VA have got this required provision in here that basically says the same thing. If the house doesn't meet value, all right, the appraised value, and this should be for the entire purchase price, not just the loan amount. So if they're purchasing something for $300,000 and the loan is only $240 because they're putting 20% down, this number should be $300,000. All right, it has to appraise for that amount. All right, and again, if it doesn't appraise, you go back and you negotiate. The buyer can come up with a difference, cash, as long as they don't go outside of their debt to income ratios. The seller can lower the price or any combination thereof to get it done. And if they can't come to that agreement, then the buyer once again can terminate the contract. And that's what the next 3 subparagraphs talks about. And finally, paragraph number 5, authorization to release information. This is important because the buyers and the sellers authorize everybody to talk with everybody. All right, and that's what you want. Right? They're giving you the opportunity to talk with the lender, whether you're the buyer's agent or the listing agent. The buyer's agent can't tell the listing agent they can't talk with the lender because it's specified right here in the third-party financing addendum. So everybody communicate, everybody will be happier, things will close much smoother, and it'll also close in much less time. So there we go. And the next one I'm going to do will be the HOA addendum, and that'll be fun as well. And thank you all for listening, and we will talk with you later.